طبعا نص ساعة بس أنا عاملة من الآن، فأنا بقى أفتحه ولا اللي بده يسجل؟
Good morning, everyone. Hello. Well, we'll start when everyone's here.
Hi all, hi Hazem. This is Ra from Bitaon. Hazem, are you hearing me?
Hello. Hi.
Hi Hazem.
Hello.
Yes, the guys in the BTI will take 5
Yes.
minutes to join because we have some troubles in the connection, in the internet connection. It will take 5 minutes to be fixed. So
Okay.
within 5 minutes, they will join the session.
Sure. Well, I'll be waiting for them.
Great.
Is the problem resolved, Hind, or should we wait longer? Do you think?
Yes, Mr. Hazm, you can start.
Okay. I suggest we start then, because we have a lot of material to go through. So, welcome everyone to part 2 of React Native training. Today we'll be continuing what we started last week. And we will take a look at Firebase services and how we can integrate them with our React app, React Native app, I'm sorry. So today we're going to keep working with React Native and try to use a few more interesting libraries. We'll be using React Navigation for to navigate between screens. So, you know, we can move from a screen to another. We'll try to implement a library to access our camera. So we know we can take pictures and stuff like that, which is something very common on mobile. And we'll try to recreate using our UI Kitten module. We'll try to recreate our Game On project a bit. And then we'll take a look at Firebase tools and we'll integrate them. Mostly we'll focus on Firebase Authentication, Firestore, and Firebase push notification to mobile. There are other services, but these are the most common and most used. And by the end of it, you should have enough knowledge to maybe explore the rest on your own, if you're interested. So let's start by reviewing what we did last week, right? Last week, we took a look at how we can basically create a new React Native app using the Expo terminal commands, using the CLI. Let me get this down. We saw how we can init using Expo by using Expo init. We initiated the project, right? This one, the one that you can see on our emulator here. We've started working with the UI library to add a few games to a list. We saw, whoops. Let me open React Native code, Visual Studio Code. And in our package.json, you can see we have a few scripts. We saw how we can start a Metro server and how we can run an application on our emulator using the run Android terminal command. We've installed, like I said, UI Kitten, and we've installed a few things that React Native installed on its own that are needed for its functioning. Can everyone hear me all right and see my screen well before we keep going? I forgot to ask. Okay. So what we've done is that we created basically a root for upper application, which is basically going to be app here. We've saw how we can't use HTML nor CSS with React Native. We saw how basically we need to use React Native components or a UI library components basically to have UI. There are no divs, no header tags, no p, no nothing. And we saw how we most used basically React Native component would be either the view or the scroll view, which will act basically like a div, like div in HTML. So we've written a few showcase components, that we will take a look at right now together. So let's comment this and take a look at our text showcase. Okay. So let's comment this and let's take a look at our text showcase. We should uncomment it here as well. There we go. We saw how we could replace basically the H1, H2, H3P with our own custom component that we call text showcase, basically using a component here that is called custom text, right? Using the text component. And we saw how basically styles work in React Native, since there is no CSS. We saw the style sheet.create function and how we can use it basically to create styles for our components and assign them later on. Since basically CSS is not an option in React Native. What we saw as well, we created this page, the scroll view showcase that we're going to take a look at right now. Let's display this. And there we go. We saw using this how we could lock orientation. Basically, how we can lock the phone from, from rotating like so. Okay, 1 second, it seems to be lagging. So when we rotate the phone, now we're stopping it from turning with us. So we're locking the phone aspect using the orientation.lock. We can lock to portrait or lock to landscape. And we saw how we can unlock it, of course. We've seen how we can replace VW and VH from CSS using access to the window dimensions, using the used window dimensions hook from React Native library. We used it basically to know if we started in portrait or not and styled accordingly, basically doing the width being at 80% of our view width, and the height we wanted to be 60%. So we saw how we could do that, and we saw how we could use the power of having our style sheets in JavaScript, so we can pass basically variables and have dynamic background colors. We saw how this could turn blue or green depending on the window, if it's a portrait or not, or a landscape. We then integrated basically UI kitten. Let's go back here. Run this. Run this. We integrated UI kitten to basically create a game card here that you can see. We imported cards and text from UI kitten components. As you can see, the text component from UI kitten has a prop called category, where we can have the size, basically H6, subtitle 1, etc. We saw the card component, basically, that we used here. We can have a header and a body, etc. And there we go. We created a card and we stopped here, basically. So now, what we'll want to do, starting here, that's what we did last week. That's the extent of it. So now where we'll start is that we will try and integrate React navigation and try and navigate between the showcases we did last week. And we'll try to navigate between them using basically the React navigation library. Okay, so let's go take a look at the React navigation library first and try to add it to our project. Okay. Before we move on to React navigation, do some of you have remaining questions about what we did last week? Since you had time to review it and we reviewed it together now, is there anything you would like clarifications on before we move on to React navigation? It seems to me, Abu Bakr, that you have an issue. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's normal. I think you didn't have the environment variable. You don't have the environment variable set up, so you can, you know. Are you using Windows or Linux, Ahmed Abu Bakr? You added the environment variables? Okay, but what happens when you write emulator without being in the folder? Does it say it can't find the command or what? Because if it says it can't find the command, yeah, I mean, that seems to me like an environment variable issue. If it opens when you're in the Android directory, it means it can't find it when you're not in the Android directory, basically. So if you look here, for example, I'll show you on my machine. If I go and, you know, let me open a new tab in my terminal, and you'll see what I mean. Okay, let's taking its time to start. Basically, let me show you. So, see, if I go and, you know, open okay, and open bash rc with my environment variables, here's what you will notice. In a second, my computer is lagging a bit due to the emulator running, which is taking a lot of RAM. Okay, here we go. This is my bash rc. I'll zoom in a bit. And if we go down, 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 you'll notice this line. Where is it? You'll see that in my path, I added this. I have the Android home set up at the SDK. So I have Android SDK here. I don't know if you see it, Abu Bakr, but basically I need to have the Android home set up. But as well as that, when I'm adding the path, you'll notice that I have the Android home multiple times. I have Android home tools bin, I have Android home platform tools, and I have Android home emulator. And I think you're missing this. I think you're missing this part. I think this part is may be missing from your path. But the problem you're describing is sounds typically like an issue with the path. So yeah, feel free to try again after the session. And if you have any issues, please message me on WhatsApp. But it definitely sounds like an issue with your path. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's get back to our project and well, where were we? So yeah, we were going to start using React Navigation. So let's go take a look at that. Navigation. And once we open their website, what you'll see is that React Navigation is a routing and navigation for Expo and React Native apps. So that's what we will be using to navigate. So let's get started with it. So we'll say, oops. We'll read the docs. We'll get to the docs. And we should have a getting started instructions telling us basically how we can install it basically. So let's copy this and let's get, okay. Let's install this. We'll have npm minus save. Let's close our metro, by the way. Let's close our app for a while. Let's close our app, close metro as well. Okay, we'll clear it and we'll install now React Navigation minus save. And we'll see in the documentation that has a few dependencies as well. Let's install those too. And let's let it install. And as you can see, we need an extra configuration step, as you can see here. Yes, Abu Bakr, what do you mean? No, it will not consume less RAM. The issue is not with the Android version. The issue is that basically it's an emulator, and emulating runs needs a lot of CPU and RAM. I mean, it's like it's not a matter of what version of Android you run on. You choose basically your RAM depending on the the device. It's like you can actually customize your emulators and give it less RAM, but less RAM means it will basically make the emulator run slow because it doesn't have enough memory to run basically. It's like it doesn't matter if your Android version is lower or higher actually. So at the end of the day, it's a virtual machine. So you give it more RAM, it takes more RAM and runs faster. You give it less RAM, it runs slower, but slows the rest of the machine less. I see, but I don't think a swap partition would help a lot because swap is very slow anyway. So it wouldn't, all it would do is that it wouldn't crash because you're out of RAM. But it wouldn't stop it from slowing down because swap is slow. You're very welcome. So let's check on our installation. So it is done. But as we can see here, we need to run a few other setup steps. You'll see this a lot with React Native libraries, is that installing them using npm is not enough. You'll see that as well with Firebase later on, but when you're using basically some libraries need to interact with basically either your Java code for Android or your basically your Objective-C code for iOS. Don't worry about it. So basically, you don't need to worry about it a lot. Just when you're installing a library, make sure to get in the documentation and see the installation process, because every library will have its own installation process that will be detailed in the documentation. So like we do here, we're just going to follow the steps instructed to us. So it says that we require one additional step to properly work on Android devices. Edit the main activity.java file, which is located in Android app main, your package main activity Java. So let's open our main activity Java. Main activity Java. So there is our main activity Java here. I'm by no means a Java expert, but this is our Java file. So what it does, it says add the following code to the body of the main activity class. All we're doing is going to copy paste, guys. It says to copy it in the main activity class, so that's what I'm going to do. So this is the main activity class, and we're just going to come here and basically add Okay, this is uncreated. It has duplicate, so it's already done, it seems. Huh. It seems it has already been done, so we don't have to worry about it, actually. Okay, this is good. If it has already been done, then all the better. And make sure to add an import statement on top of this file. It has done as well. Okay, and now we should be able to use our navigator. So according to your question, Ahmed Abu Bakr, you basically installed from React Native CLI itself. It's like not actually an installation, it's just about, how do I say, it's just a boilerplate. At the end of the day, you can use whatever boilerplate you want. We saw Expo, but we saw another one last week. We saw another boilerplate. You just use the React Native CLI boilerplate, which is basically the oldest one. Another boilerplate that's very popular to start new React Native apps right now is Ignite. This is very popular right now. It's getting popular right now. It's quite new. So yeah, it's another boilerplate. So it won't be much difference, Ahmed. The only difference may be what libraries you start with or what scripts you start with or something like that. But it won't be much of a difference on the long run because you're going to add the stuff you need anyway. So yeah, as you can see here, if you, for example, if you start with Ignite, it tells you start with React Navigation already done. You start with MobX, which is a state management tool that they use here instead of Redux. Basically, they say here, why not Redux? But they're using MobX. You're using async storage, API sauce to talk to REST servers. A lot of stuff. It supports Expo and Expo Web. And a lot of stuff. So there we go. Let's keep going with React Navigation. We've installed it. So now let's run our app again. Let's start our Metro server. Let's wait for it to start. Okay, our Metro server has started. So now let us build our app on the emulator so we can get it displayed and start working with React Navigation. Hopefully it builds with no issues. Because sometimes when you add new libraries, since basically they add stuff to Java and stuff like that, they may create some issues. So it's building. Let's wait for it for a couple of minutes. Shouldn't take too long. Almost done. So it's compiling React Native screens from React Navigation, as you can see in the terminal right there. It's because we've added this new library and it contains Java code. So now we're in build process, it needs to compile those as well. So that's why every time you add a library, it may take a little more time than it usually does because it needs to compile that library for native use, especially if the library is contains native code for Android or iOS. Okay, so it's built. Okay, so we just have a little warning here that we'll get rid of. Basically, we forgot to add a key to our cards. So let's go to the home here. And when we're building our cards, let's add a key with let's add an ID. One ID 2 and add an ID here as well, so we can then call it in the key and get rid of the warning. Okay, and key would be here the game dot ID. Okay, let's add like this, and then here we have the ID and the rest of the game. Okay, this should get us rid of the warning. Actually, let's reload it, and it should be fine now. Two children with the same key. How is that possible? 1, 2, and 3. They shouldn't have the same key. How is that even possible? They don't seem the same to me. Okay. Let's roll back then. And then we'll go back here and key will just say it's game.name. And that's it. The computer is lagging a bit. Okay, let's maybe reload this. Okay, it should be fine now. Okay, we are fine now. Okay, so let's get to React Navigation, right? Now we'll want to get started. Like we said, the objective is having our 3 screens that we used. The one showcasing the text, the one showcasing the views, and this one with the cards, and we want to navigate between them. Can you guys hear me all right? Because I seem to be, the computer seems to be lagging a bit.
Yes, we can hear you right.
Okay, it's because my computer is actually lagging right now. It always happens with React Native, but what can you do? Okay, So let's get started. Like we said, I want to be able to navigate between these three without having to comment like this every time. So how are we going to do that? We're going to have basically what we call a stack navigator. Okay, so did we install the stack navigator earlier? I am not sure. I'm not even sure that we installed the stack navigator. Let me just check if we have the React Native stack navigator. So directory native, but we don't have the stack navigator, unfortunately. So we need to install that. And well, okay. So we'll need to install the stack navigator anyway. We forgot to install that. So let's get back and install it quickly. npm I -- save as React navigation. And we'll need to add the native stack navigator. Basically for each different navigation process. What is the issue? Native stack not found. What do you mean? One second. Okay, so if we go here, we should be, if we get to the documentation, all it does is it gives us, it says to install the React Native stack. Why doesn't it, it says that it doesn't exist is weird. Native stack, that's what I wrote, right? Let's try again. Let's copy it directly from here and paste it in our terminal. Okay, now it works. I must have made a typo. So we need to install the native stack, right? Okay, it's good. So now we can, hopefully we don't need to reload anything. So what we can do now is that we'll start working with a native stack. How we do that is that we're going to go to our app here. Okay, let's close everything else. Okay. And now what we'll do is that we'll go and import a few things. Okay, as soon as my computer stops lagging. Okay, so we'll come here and we'll import basically a few things. Like I said, we'll import the navigation container, which is going to be like a provider, like we use with React router or like with Redux. So the navigation container, we're going to import that from React navigation native. And we're going to import a function that allows us to create a navigation stack that is called create native stack navigator. And that allows us to navigate between screens. We call it from React Native, React navigation, excuse me, native stack. So first thing we need to do here is we're going to create a stack, or call it nav stack. and we will have it be create native stack navigator with no parameters. And well, now what we need to do is that first thing is we'll come here and we will have basically the navigation container. So we'll add a navigation container here. Like I said, it's like we usually do with anything else that needs providers, like we did for UI Kitten, like we usually do for Redux. So no surprises here. So we added our navigation container, right? Now we need to call our stack, which means we'll come here. And what we'll do is that we will add stack dot, oh, excuse me, the stack we created. So basically it's going to be nav stack dot navigator, which we will close. And then we'll be adding some stuff. We'll add basically a new screen by doing navstack.screen. And every screen needs to have a name, basically like an ID that we'll use then to navigate. Since we're not on the browser, we don't have routes being like, we don't have paths, we don't have like /home because we're not in the browser. In React Native, we'll just need to use names, IDs that we'll use then to navigate. So we call it name is going to be home. And for every navstack.screen, we'll need to choose the component that actually corresponds to that screen. So we'll add another prop called component. And we'll give it our home component as a value. So now what we'll do is that we will do the same thing. Actually, I prefer to have this lowercase. And next, what we'll do is that we'll do the same thing here for these two. And we'll put them here. And we'll call this. Okay, this is weird. Okay. As soon as it's done lagging. Okay, we'll call this, like I said, we need to give it a name. So maybe we'll call it examples. So examples, text, and we'll call this examples views. So here we have 3 screens. We can delete those. And we should delete this as well, actually. Maybe replace it with actually a view. Oh, please stop lagging. So we'll take these and maybe replace them with a simple view. And let's uncomment these to have them imported. And now it should work, basically. So now we should be having a navigator here with all of our screens. Let's try and reload our app here. It's reloading, so we can make sure everything is fine, as it should be. Okay. It's loading. it's a bit slow. Okay, we have an error saying, okay, it seems our Metro server has crashed. So let's take a look at that. 1 second. So let's take a look at our Metro. Okay. It seems we need to rebuild because we've installed the stack navigate in the stack library. So we need to rebuild. So let's close that actually. We restart our Metro server. Like I said, preferably we need to rebuild after adding every library. But since here we added the native stack library and we didn't rebuild, we may get an error saying some things weren't found, basically. So let's restart our Metro server. Once that's started, and we can actually rebuild. So let's rebuild and it should fix our issue. Let's wait for it to build then. Like I said, unfortunately with React Native, it's a lot of waiting for builds. That's the main difference between working on mobile and working on web. On web, development is usually faster because you don't have to build every time. But here we'd have to build because there is code to be compiled, there is Java code that needs to be compiled and everything. As you know, Java is a compiled language, while JavaScript is an interpreted language. So no compilation is required when we're working purely with JavaScript, but here we have some Java code that needs to be compiled every time, even though we don't write the Java code ourselves. So let's wait a couple of minutes for the build to be done. So it's almost done. Should be done in a minute now. Okay. Only a few seconds and we should be good. Okay, build successful. So now we should see our app pop up on the emulator any second. Go, go. Well, there we go. There we go. And we see here we have an empty screen, but it's fine. It's because we didn't define basically the default screen to start with. So let's first get started. Let's get back to here. Let's get back to our code. And well, we have the home here and everything. And actually we should add a scroll view to this. We should add a scroll view because we got rid of the scroll view outside. So we should get this here. Okay. So now let's try and have a navigation. Let's try to have the initial, the initial screen be our home. So let's go here and we should, if we go back to our app and to our navigator, we should be able to give it a prop called initial route name. And if we give it home, it should display the home, or even though I don't see it, maybe I'll relaunch the app quickly. Okay. One second. Okay, so let's relaunch it. My RN app. And let's see. Okay, we still have a white screen, which is weird. Let's try a different route, maybe. Maybe it's an issue with our home. So let's try this one. This is very weird. So maybe, so we'll try to solve this issue together. Though it's quite a weird issue, to be honest. Let's try it again. Let's try and relaunch it again. Okay, it's still a white screen, which is a very weird issue. Maybe it's because we had the provider after this one. Let's try moving the navigation provider outwards. Maybe that fixes it. Well, it doesn't seem to be the case. Maybe it doesn't like the view here. Let's get rid of that. Is it better now? Yes, actually. It doesn't like to be put inside the view. Okay. So we have our, let's go here, home. Let's start with home. And as you can see now, we have different screens. If we go out and come back, you'll see that initial route will become home now. Let's get back in. Excuse the lag, but there we go. And as you can see here, we have home and up. That is on top of every screen. We should have its title. But here, what we can do as well is that we can add another prop to our screens, which we'll do right now, by the way. What we can do is we can add a prop called options, where we basically can have a set of an object of options. And here, the option that we will use is the title. We'll have my games, and here we'll have title, texts, we'll have custom text showcase, and here we'll have another title with views showcase. Let's format this. So we should now have my games and the title up. So here we have everything. We have the navigation, but we need buttons to navigate, right? To need to be able to move from a screen to another. So that's what we will do next. What we'll do next is that we want to add a way to move between screens. So what we'll do now is that, well, we'll go and add a component, maybe. 1 second. Okay. What we can do is, for example, in my games, we could add any kind of button to navigate. Basically, what we can do is that, for example, in the games, in this home screen, you'll see that basically we always can have now in the props, we always get a navigation prop. So what we will do here is that we will get navigation out of these props because we use a provider, remember? So we can have navigation here. And what we can do is that we can add, for example, a button here, or we can add any kind of button. We'll import it from UIKitten. And basically what we'll do with this button is that we'll go with on press, which is the event, or on press out, which is the event of, pressing on a button. And we'll give that event basically a function saying navigation that we imported from the props dot push to, I don't know, example text, which is the route we have here, right? So let's try that and have a button, go to text examples. Okay, so if we do that, now if we go to our home screen here, we'll see a button down the page saying go to text examples. And if we click it, it will take us to the next page. And what you might notice is that automatically when using React navigation is that it will give us this arrow allowing us to go back. So there we navigated from one to the other. This is called a stack navigation because we're stacking basically pages one after the other. And we could go have another button here. For example, we could have another button. We could have a layout actually for it. Let's have a layout. Let's have a layout, the style, or just a layout, level 2. And we'll put 2 buttons here. We'll put another button. And what we can have is like, could come here and have basically this example of views. We'll add it here. See text example and see views example. Well, there we go. And now we should be able to maybe style it a bit. So now if we click on see text example, takes us here. If we click on the view showcase example, it takes us here. So with that, well, we have a functioning navigation. We could style it a bit. Let's take a look at maybe something we can do with maybe UI kitten. Let's go here, and if we go to UI kitten, we should find interesting components maybe to follow. UI kitten to use for our navigation. Okay, let's go to documentation. And we should, in components, we should get here button tabs or tab navigation or whatever. What is tab navigation again? So this is a tab navigation component. Button tabs. Okay, we have this. What else do we have? Well, I think we're gonna keep it simple, maybe, and just have a buttons here, but we'll change their appearance. We'll just have okay. We'll just use a button like this, maybe the ghost buttons, and we'll give a style to the layout. So here we will take a look. So appearance is cast. Okay. So let's actually do that. Okay. We should have here appearance. Appearance. We should take it to be a ghost. Let's add here the style with the styles. Nav buttons. Container. We'll take that and we'll use it in our styles file. We'll add another one. We'll display flex, and flex direction would be row. And justify content. space around, maybe. This should be fine. Let's go back, and there we go. And actually, we could go even further and having this work this way, and have this scroll view here, and have a view. We could have this as well working. We could have a view here. And here, and we could even take this button here, or just keep it as is. It's okay. Scroll view here. What's the issue? Okay. I think we can get rid of this, by the way. And it should be fine this way. Let's save. Okay. And now, as you can see, they stay on the bottom of my screen. So there, we made it like a sticky header menu, like Abu Bakr said. So now we can have it like this. Because it's outside of our scroll view, it doesn't scroll with it, because this is the scroll view. Since it's outside, it doesn't scroll, which means it would make like a Bootstrap header menu being sticky. So there we go. We can go to see our text example. We could see our views example. And there we made basically a stack navigator using React Native. There are lots of other ways we can build navigators. We can even build our own navigator. We can get very complex. If we go to the documentation for React Navigation, we can even build our own navigator with custom routers, custom navigators. We created the stack navigator just now, but there are more than that. There is a material bottom navigator. There is the material top, the bottom tab, the drawer. There is a lot of navigators we can use. We can have this one being material. We can have the top bottoms navigator. We can have this one like this. We can have the bottom tabs navigator, which is one of my favorites. You want the hamburger menu bar. The hamburger menu bar is basically like this. If we go with this one, the what we call a drawer navigator, this is what we'll get basically. See, I don't know if you see my screen. Is this what you mean? This is another navigator. We need to install React Navigation Drawer. And basically it would work exactly like the other one, but we'd use a drawer instead of the other. So if you want, do you want us to install this one and take a look, Abu Bakr? I guess we have a bit of time if you want to see this one in action. But it works exactly like the other one. Basically, okay, we can have the example just so you know how it's similar. You can go here and choose any of these navigators, basically. Once you choose the one you want, you just have to install it. We'll install it right now. Let's go back here. Let's close our app. And actually, if we close this and we can install the drawer navigator, we'll have to reload, but basically all we have to do is that we'd have to import it. Oh, okay, we need a bit more to install. Okay, it seems stuck here. Okay, so 1 second. So let's add React Native gesture handler because it needs it. What we'll need to do is that we'll need to add gesture handler in our scope. We'll add it here. Oh, it's already added, by the way. So we are okay with that. Okay. We already have the gesture handler. And all we need to do is basically have this exactly like we have the stack navigator. It's like, I think this is what interests you, Abu Bakr. And basically, once we get that, all we need to do is that basically the only different thing here is that instead of having this, what we do is that we'd have exactly the same thing, but we'd use create drawer navigator instead of the other one. That's literally it. That's all we have to do. All the rest is the same thing. It's like we can see an example here, by the way. Another thing that we might need to change is, yeah, the drawer label. Here we can add drawer label, my games, and we need to add drawer label, which is basically going to be the title, but displayed in the drawer. Drawer label, and again, drawer label. Well, we've added the labels for the drawer, which is basically going to be the thing that comes, the menu that comes out of the side. Let's see where we are here. So let's start our Metro server again, now that we've installed the dependency. So we'll start it. Once our Metro server starts, we rebuild again, and it should work as expected. Like I said, all you need to do is basically import the navigator you want and make your navigator basically do whatever you want it to be. It's like maybe we'll call this, by the way, since we called it stack earlier, we'll call it now my navigator or something. So it doesn't confuse, because this one is stack, but this one is drawer. So it's not confusing. So our Metro server started. So let's just run the Android build. And we should have the menu bar that you want, Ahmed. Like I said, what we just did to get the drawer, we could do it literally for any navigator. We could have it for the bottom tab navigator. If you want a navigation like this, like you can see on this, on their documentation, all you need to do is basically import it, install it, import it, and use it instead of the other navigator. So like the syntax is the same. All you need to do is basically when you create your navigator, you create the one you want. So you import. All you need to do is this: install it, import it, create the navigator. Otherwise, all the text remains the same. All the code remains the same, like we just did. Let's take a look at where we are with our build. And after this, maybe we'll take our 15 minutes break. Let's just finish this first. What do you mean? More components? Yeah, this navigator would be more suitable for bigger apps with more navigators. But as you can see, if you use your mobile a lot, most, yeah, I agree. That's why I didn't start that. It's like, I think most of the time, the navigator you'll use most is actually this one, the bottom tabs one. I think this is the most used navigator, to be honest. Because most of the time you don't have that many menus items in your app, in your mobile app. But if you do, yeah, you can use the drawer and it will be listed vertically, and it's more suitable if we have more pages. I totally agree with you, Ahmed. I totally agree. It's almost done building, build successful. So we should get it now on our emulator. Yes, it's done. So now if we, once it's done, we can see if it works properly. There we go. See, we have the hamburger that you wanted, Ahmed. This is the hamburger. If I click the hamburger, I will get the menu. And there we go. We can also get it by, you know, sliding our finger. And well, there. We have two types of navigators. This one still works, by the way, I believe. No, it doesn't, because it's not a stack. It needs to be a stack navigator to work. And actually, what we could do is that, what can we do? I have an idea, actually. We could have the create stack navigator here as well. Actually, we can create two navigators at some point at the same time, I believe. So let's create a stack. Let's try it. So let's add the native stack here. Let's get this stack navigator here. We'll create a stack navigator. And actually, let's take this off. What we'll do is that home. We'll call this home content. We'll rename this. And then what we'll do is that we'll create another function, another component called home. The navigation. And what we'll do here is that maybe we won't use this. What we'll do is that we will create a stack navigator here. And maybe we'll copy the app. Let's copy this. We don't need the drawer label. Let's delete our drawer labels to make space. Initial route, and the component here is going to be the home content. Let's see if this works. Let's call this home content. Let's see if this works, right? Does it? Okay, we need to import these two. We need to comment this. And here we need these two here. So I'm going to import them. Like this. Like this. Excuse me. So here, now, as you can see, we have these. But if you go to my games, you actually have a navigator inside another navigator, which is funny because we can have it be working here as well. And what we can do here in the options, actually, we can have, I believe we can hide the bar. Let's take a look. API reference, maybe at the navigation container or the screens. Maybe we can hide that top bar so it's not ugly. 1 second. Let me look through the API. Options. Let me look it up, 1 minute. How can we do that? I think we can add here, if I'm not mistaken, here we could add header shown false. Does that work? Yes, that works. So now we actually have two navigators, one inside the other. We have the navigator that Ahmed Abu Bakr talked about with the menu. But if we go to my games, we actually also have the push navigation here. But what we need to do is maybe we change this home stack. We add stack here. Stack. So we can add stack. Stack. here. So when we push, actually, we might go back and go back. And this should be working fine. And we have our menu. Does anyone have any questions regarding React navigation before we take a short break? Any questions? Any question, guys? Nothing? Is everything clear? Everyone understood React navigation and different navigators? Is anyone here? Okay. Guys, can you hear me? Okay. Is everything clear, or does anyone have any questions before we move on? All right, I see no questions, so I'm going to take that as it's clear. I hope it is. I hope you guys have been paying attention. I don't see many people answering in the chat, unfortunately. So I suggest we take a 15 minutes break and then we get back to integrate the camera and move on to Firebase, okay? Okay. So see you guys in 15 minutes. See you back here. Hi guys. The 15 minutes break should be over by now. So is everyone back? Are you guys back here? Okay, great. So if everyone's back, so let's jump back into the course. We still have a remaining library I want us to try out. It is very common when we're using React Native or mobile apps to focus on, to use the camera, because that's a real advantage of the mobile, the access to the mobile camera. So that's what we're going to try to do now. We're going to try and add camera support to our app. Of course, here it's an emulator, so we'll be accessing an emulated camera. But once you install it on a phone, you should be able to see the real camera at work. We're going to use a new library for it. Usually I would use React. Usually I would use React Native Camera. I would use this package, usually, which is a really good package anyway. It has a fairly amount of downloads. But recently, there have been a new library that maybe we can try out together. And it's called React Native Vision Camera. And it's basically, the good thing about React Native Vision Camera is that it's compatible with the new cameras, you know, with multiple lenses. So I think that's really interesting. It's relatively new. I haven't seen it used much, but I think it might be interesting to try it out together today. So let's try it out, shall we? So let's get started. First things first, we will shut our app down because we'll be needing to install the libraries. And as we said, every time we install, it might be a good idea to basically shut down the thing because we need to rebuild it anyway. So we'll install it. Go npm I -- save React Native Vision Camera. Okay. There we go. We installed that. In Android, we should be having some few changes to do as well. We must add the permissions. So here we should access, I'll show you as in the documentation. If we go here to their website, we should have it says here to open our Android manifest so we can add the permissions to access the camera. So that's what we will do. So we'll go to Android manifest.xml, Android manifest.xml, and we'll add this tag. We see here a lot of permissions, read and write, access to the internet. And basically what we'll do here is we'll add another one being the access to the camera, right? So that's what we'll do. We'll add this here. Other than that, we should be good to go, I believe. So they will request camera and everything. So we should be fine doing that. So let's, let's get our Metro server back and running. And that's done. So now let's build our app for our emulator. And once that's done, we should be able to start writing our code to access, basically to access our camera. Okay, it should be done in a few seconds and we can get back to the code. So actually we'll get back to our code right now, to be honest, maybe. Or maybe we wait because it's almost done. It's building the camera. That's why I don't want to touch. As you can see here, it's building the React Native Vision camera. It seems like a really cool library. So let's get started with that. Go, go, go. We don't have a lot of time left, so yeah, I'll start writing the code. We still don't have a lot of time, and we still have a lot of material to go through. So let's get started. We'll create another component here that we call what should we call it? We'll call it camera. Basically, let's just call it my camera, right? We will add an index.js here. We'll import. We'll import React, of course, as always, because we need the GSX. We will add the styles.js. We will import styles or generate get styles from styles. We will then we'll function camera. We'll have our props, right? And what we will do is that what is happening here? It's still building. So let's let it build while we write our code. So we gain time. So here, what we want to do is that we export default camera. So want to do that. And well, what we want to do first thing is that we want to import right now our camera basically. So here, how can we import that? Let's import from React Native Vision camera, right? And here what we need to import, we need to import a function called get or use camera devices. And we'll have a camera, but since we already named our component camera, we'll call this as RNV camera. Okay, so React Native Vision camera, we have our own camera and everything is going fine. First thing we need to do is basically, for now, let's return null. So first thing we need to do is that when the component renders, use effect, let's add the use effect here. Let's have zero dependency, so it only runs when the component mounts. So React.use effect. And what we want to do with this effect is that we want to check for permission. Basically, want to see if we have permission. So let's see what we can get here. So we will use this here. Okay, so now this should be a string, right? And here let's console.log the camera access permission, and let's log it, right? Camera access permission. That's the first thing we want to do. We want to see if we have permission to access the camera. So now what we want to do is that we want basically to, so here's styles, let's import style sheet, React Native, sheet, and I want to export default style sheet dot create, and for now I'm gonna keep it empty. We work on it later on. So we created this camera component. We didn't do anything with it yet. By the way, this is it. We didn't do anything with it yet. But what we want to do is that we want to go to the home and the cards here. And what we want to do is that I want to add something here. We want to add in the home card second. I'm going to add this use effect, const using camera. Or taking game picture. And we're going to be using react.useState. And we're going to have it be undefined at the start. And of course, we're going to have a setter for that as well. Set taking game picture. Right? This is taking a long time. This is taking a long time. How big is this library? It's been 8 minutes and it's still building it. Man, I hope it's done soon. Basically what we want to do here is that we want to, whenever we have a card here, I want to add to the game card. Actually, I did it in the wrong place. My bad. Let's take this here and go to the game card component. I'm sorry. I wanted it to be with the game card component. So there we go, game card component. And what I want to do is I want to add this here. And I want to add a button here. So I want to add a button with the appearance of being ghost. And take picture. Take a picture. And what I want to do is I want to do on press out. I wanted to launch an event saying doing set, taking game picture. Well, props.name, right? I want to put in this state the name of the game we want to take a picture of. And what I want to do here is that I'm going to add here, or maybe I should Actually, maybe I was right in the. I was right. I should give it here. Maybe I should actually have props here. In the props, maybe I should do here props dot handle camera, and should take this back where it was and give it as a prop here. So maybe I'll come back here and I'll put it back. Actually, my bad. And what I want to do is that I will add here handle camera, and I'm gonna give it a function. Oops. I'm gonna give it a function of game name, set taking game picture to that game name. All right. And what I want to do then is that handle camera there. And what I want to do is that here, basically, when I'm returning, what I want to do is that I want to check if taking game picture. If we're taking the game picture, right, I want to show my camera component. I have my camera from here, camera. And I want to go and have my camera here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? So here, if I'm taking a picture, instead of showing this, I want to show my camera. And I want to give it handle exit. And I'll give it a function saying when we exit, basically set taking game picture to null. So basically, we can exit it right there. So that's what we're doing, right? When we press a button, we want to go like this. When you go in here, we want to open the camera. We want to know which game we're opening it for. We want to give it a game name, actually. We want it to be taking game picture. That's the game name. And that's for our camera. So what we want to do now is that we want to go to the camera and handle this. So we're going to have here, instead of having it be null, what we're going to do is that we're going to have basically a view. We're going to import the view here. And inside this view, what we're going to do is going to have basically text. And in this text, we're going to have, here, let's take this game name. And what else did we give it? We give it a game name, and we give it a handle exit. So let's give it a handle exit as well here. And what we want to do is that we want to display the game name first. And then we want to have a button with the appearance. I want it to still be ghost because I think it looks better. And camera, and on press out. I want it to basically exit, handle exit. Taking picture for. That's it. And I want to console.log my camera access permission. We say here, hey, debug camera permission. There we go. And we should be ready, but it's still building. That's actually weird. Why is it still building? That's so weird. That's taking such a long time. Let me check if it's supposed to take such a long time. React native vision camera. I mean, no one is actually complaining from it. This is so weird. Okay, let's maybe try to relaunch the build. Maybe try again. Maybe it's stuck. But that's so weird because I see no one complaining that it takes too long to build. And then let's see if it goes faster now. Okay, there seems to be an issue. Failed to install the app. What is the issue? What went wrong? Configure memory. 7. What went wrong? Did not have a source properties file. Okay, this is a weird error. React native. Let's take a look at this error. Maybe we can find a quick solution. React native vision camera. Did not have NDK. Did not have a source. Did not have. Okay. What is the issue with this? Okay. What is the issue? Okay, this doesn't seem to be the same error. This is so weird. Let's try it again. It didn't throw an error earlier. Went wrong. NDK did not have a source properties file. That's actually very weird. Did it crash again? Yeah, it crashed again with the same error, right? Configuring project, did not have a source properties file. How can I fix this? Okay. Should I add this in my build.gradle? Okay, that's a big part of doing React Native is actually fixing Android related issues. So let's go to build.gradle, or maybe the other build.gradle. Apply. It said to put it where in Android. Okay, Android, there we go, Android. Okay, NDK version. Maybe this will do better. I don't know, let me check. Where does it say NDK is? Okay, ls echo Android home. So let's go take a look inside Android home. /NDK. So this is the one we have. Let's take a look what we can find here. We can find nothing here. So let's copy this. Let's copy NDK version here. Like he said, what else? Local.properties. Remove the following since it's been deprecated. So let's go to local.properties. We don't have a local.properties. Okay, let's look for the one he said. NDK dir. Okay, dir. Here. Okay, there is no NDK anywhere. Well, let's try again, shall we? Let's see if it works now. Otherwise, we'll move on to Firebase, and I will fix it on my own, and we'll talk about it. Well, next time. Okay, this doesn't work. Okay, I will troubleshoot it on my own. I suggest we move on to Firebase for now, and next week we'll get back to the camera. So for now, let's delete this. It doesn't work. The camera, we will be commenting this and this. Okay. And for now, we will remove actually npm remove. Let's remove it. Start again. And see if now we can build. Otherwise, like I said, I will fix the camera on my own, and I will find the fix for that, and I will go through it with you guys next week. But for now, I don't think we have the time to really stop to troubleshoot a lot. As I said, it's a new library that I haven't used much myself neither. So I'll just take a look by myself before we take a look together again. But for now, I think it's more important that we move on to Firebase. What's the issue? Why did the build fail? What went wrong? What's happening now? Seems we created a big issue now. Exception. Text. Let's clear maybe. CD Android. Grade loop. Clean. Okay. Let's try again. Did this library mess up my Gradle? I hope not. Well, anyway, let's get back to the presentation so we can start taking a look at Firebase. So Firebase, what is it? So Firebase is essentially a platform that is handled by Google that allows us to access different services for development. It is used for mobile and web, but mostly for mobile. A lot of mobile developers use it because usually mobile developers don't bother a lot with writing backend. They'd rather focus on mobile because, as you can see, mobile takes time, it's time consuming, there is a lot of issues that needs fixing. So usually mobile developers prefer focusing on mobile and not write server applications a lot. So Firebase allows us to gain time by not having to write backend and having access to data, authentication, and a lot of services that are very useful and very simple to implement. So our goal here is to implement Firebase within our React Native app, right? So the first service we'll be looking at is Firebase Authentication. So as you know, most apps need to verify users' identity for security purposes. We need to be able to have, for example, an email and a password for a user and allow him to basically connect to our app so we can identify him and know which resources he has access to. So Firebase Authentications provides ready-to-use plug-and-play authentication services. So we don't have to write any backend. We can authenticate with it using passwords, phone numbers, but also identity providers like Google, Facebook, or Twitter. So we can basically say, hey, connect with Google or sign in with Facebook or sign in with Twitter, etc. So that's the first service we'll be looking at, right? Second one is going to be Firestore, which is my favorite of the bunch. So Cloud Firestore is a flexible, scalable, NoSQL database for mobile, web, and server development. But like I said, we'll be using it for mobile. And basically, Firestore is going to look a lot like MongoDB, for those of you who know MongoDB. But it's a real-time database, which means we don't have to play with sockets and real-time and offline support. And a lot of things are handled by Firestore. So we get data in real time, we get data offline. So if we have bad internet, our app doesn't crash. Basically, it caches data that it already received to always be able to display data to us. It follows a NoSQL data model, which means we don't have tables and a defined structure. Basically, what we will have is we'll have documents and collections, where documents will be like key value structure. It will look a lot like JSONs. Collections, though, are basically a bunch of documents. And we'll take a look at that in practice. We'll create a Firebase app and we'll take a look at that in practice. So we have collections, and every collection has a bunch of documents, right? So we can have, for example, we can say a collection that is called games, and then every game is going to be a document within that collection, right? But the thing that is particular as well about the structure of Firestore is that we can have sub-collections. What that means is that we could have collections inside the document as well, and again, documents inside that collection, which to infinity, basically. So we could have, for example, a games collection. Inside the games collection, we have documents for every game. And inside every document, every game document, we could have a collection, for example, of players. We have a collection called players, and inside this collection of players, we'd have documents again with the info of every player. That's an example of how it may be structured. And it looks, like I said, a lot like JSON, and we'll see that in a bit. So that's an example of how it may find Firestore structure. So we may find a collection of users. For example, let's say we're building a workout app for training. And we could have, for example, a collection of users. And every user, we can have user 1, 2, 3, user 4, 5, 6, and user 7, 8, 9. And every user, every document of a user has a collection inside of it of workouts. And every collection will have documents again. We could have jogging, yoga, weights, whatever. And every document of a training could have its own collection again, basically with the history, and having a document for each time we trained that specific workout. So that's how we would structure Firestore, basically, and we'd look at that in a bit. Last one we'll take a look at is Firebase push notifications. Some of you will have noticed that when you use your mobile app, you will get notified even of things, even when your app is not open. Let's say you have Facebook installed or WhatsApp installed. So when even if WhatsApp is not open, I may have closed WhatsApp, but you guys will get notifications when you get a message, even though WhatsApp is not open. That message, that notification is called a push notification. And Firebase has a really good service to do that, which is called Firebase Cloud Messaging. And basically, it's a messaging solution that allows us to send messages directly to users' devices, even when the app is closed. So we send a notification to the device telling it, hey, you have a new message. There's something happening in the app. Check it out. And a message can be a maximum of 4 kilobytes. So we won't be able to send a lot of data in the message. But basically, we don't need to. All we need to do is like tell them, hey, there is something new. Please open the app to check it out. And that's what the service does, basically. And that's the third and last service we'll take an interest in Firebase for now. How we'll integrate those? We'll integrate those using a library for React Native called React Native Firebase. And React Native Firebase is the official recommended collection of packages to support Firebase and React Native, because Firebase is written for native Android and iOS apps, right? It's written in Java for Android, and it's written with Objective-C for iOS. Well, React Native Firebase allows us to use both those, the Java and Objective-C API, but using JavaScript and directly in our React Native app. So that's what we're going to use for that integration. Let's take a look at our build. I see we still have a problem with the build. I'll be taking a look at that later. But for now, let's go and create our Firebase app. So first thing we need to do is go to firebase.google.com. We go to the console. And now what we'll do is that we'll create a new project. Once you have an account, you can create your account or whatever. We could create a project. We'll call this project, what do we call it? We call it Go Digital React Native. So continue. It says, hey, Google Analytics, whatever. We're not going to enable or let's enable it, what the hell. So continue, select an account. This is my account. Create a project. So it's going to say creating your project. We'll do most of our work here. We'll be using their interface a lot, so better get accustomed to it. So it says our new project is ready. So continue. And we'll access our project, right? We'll have a lot of things. Close this. We'll have all the services on the left. Analytics, engage. We have a lot of services for ads, for releasing, for the blog view, for a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. But what's going to interest us first is basically this. Let's say you have, we can go to project settings, or we can go to users and permissions. And basically what this does is that we can add members to work with us on our project. So for example, I could invite any of you guys here and say, hey, you're an editor and work with me, please. So we could have, you could actually invite people to work with you on your project here, and you can work together at the same time. So we have integrations, a lot of stuff as well. We can integrate new things. We can link it to other services. We can link it to Slack. We can, you know, a lot of stuff. We have service accounts for admin access, but we won't need that. That's for basically for Node.js. And that's it for configuring our project. So first thing we need to do, we're going to take a look at the authentication. As you can see here, it gives us an explanation of it, and we can get started. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to come here, and we're going to choose, first thing that we're going to choose is what sign-in methods we want, basically. How do we want to connect? So what I'm going to choose, basically, I'm going to choose two. I'm going to choose email and password. I'm going to enable it, save. So there we have email and password enabled. We're going to add another provider, and I'm going to add Google as well. I'm going to enable it. Project support email. And well, there we go. I have enabled Google as well as a provider. And now, if I go to my users, here, when a new user signs up to my platform, it will add here, but it will be added here. But I can add a new user myself. I can say, hey, my email is going to be hazemiri@gmail.com. And the password is going to be Go Digital 2021 star. And that's going to be one of the users of my platform, as you can see here. Once I've used the password, well, I can't see it anymore. So it's supposed to be secret. And it tells me when the user signed in and when it was created. And we give us a user ID. But like I said, usually that will be done in the app. When we have a new user signing up, they will show up here, even though we can add them ourselves as well. So another one that, like I said, we talked about Firestore. Another one I want us to see directly from the interface here is this. It's the Firebase Firestore. And well, what we're going to do is that we're going to create a database. So we're going to start in test mode. All right. Next. Location, we're going to start with Europe West, enable. And it will create basically a Firestore database for us. As you can see, it's pretty fast. We don't need to do much. And we should have our basically Firestore database created once this finishes loading. So see here, we are on the UI for our database. And we can start even creating data by ourselves. So it says where is it to go, just add data. So we're adding data usually from our app, but I just want to show you the structure. So I can add a collection here saying, hey, games. So this is a collection, right? We're going to create, you see, give the collection ID, and it says add its first document. So I'm going to give it an automatic ID. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add here a field saying the name. We're going to add, basically going to add those we have here in the placeholder data. Let's add those. So we're going to have this one. and we're going to have year, and it's going to be a number. And we also have another field, and it's okay, developers. It's going to be Nintendo. Is that the one? Is that how? Okay. And well, that's the first document, right? And as you can see, now we have a collection of games and one document with this game. So I can add another document, name, year, and developers. Let's copy it again. This is a number. So we have it 2011 as down. And add the third one, which is going to be, again, auto ID. We're going to have the name, a year, and the developers, basically. And here, what did we input here? So we'll take the same thing, Mega Man 3, for example. I'm gonna put 1994, I don't care, Sega, and we'll save. So now we have a collection and documents, and every document will have fields, right? Like a JSON, have developers, the name, and all the information. But as you can see, within a document, we are free to add anything. Basically, we can add a field here that exists only in this document. For example, we can add the genre and the RPG. And it's not a problem if only this document has it. See, it's not like SQL where you have a defined structure. We can have a structure that changes. And the interesting part is that, for example, we could come here and we could start a new collection here. And we could have, for example, here or maybe here. So we could have another collection, for example. And we could have, for example, a collection called the bosses. And we could have a name, for example, and level. We could have here, for example, Ebony Warrior, which is a boss in Skyrim, and he's level 80. And we could have, for example, another one in the bosses. We could start another one here. We could add another document, whatever, and we could have another collection and so on. And you have a path, basically being the collection, document, collection, document. So as I said, you have collections of documents, and every document can have a collection, and those can go to infinity. Actually, we can start a new collection and so on and so on. So this is our Firestore database. Basically, as you can see, it's like we didn't need to put much time into it to add a database to basically our stack. All we need to do now is connect it to our app. So let's see, we maybe need to fix this. So package the JSON. What happened? What may have happened with our build, so it doesn't build anymore. Okay, so command failed, it seems. App failed for task. Okay, it's failing now for some reason. What is happening? We deleted the new library, so what is the issue here? Okay. Let's try once more to do a grid look clean. And let's try once again to go back and run Android again. In the meantime, let's go take a look at, like I said, we talked about React Native Firebase. So we can actually close these and take a look at React Native Firebase. Firebase. And as you can see here, we have this app, this website that will give us basically the documentation to access everything we need. So we need to access through authentication in Firestore. Basically, we need to use the cloud messaging. So that's what we're going to do, whether it builds or not. I don't care. Let's get started with this. Basically, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll find a solution later on. No. Let's not stop due to that. So first things first, it needs us to create a new React project. We did that. We created the Firebase project, and now let's follow the steps of installation. So we should add this, right? We should install React Firebase native app. That's the main thing. Okay, this doesn't want to install. I don't care. Okay, so let's install this. npm I -- save. Well, actually, we will not install only the app. We'll install also authentication because we need to install every module by itself. So we're going to install that, the authentication. We're going to install Firestore as well. What else are we going to need? We're going to need the messaging. So we're going to install the messaging as well. There we go. So all of these should install. While these install, let me keep going with the guide for installation. So we installed via npm. Now we need to do some things for Android. So configuration file must be downloaded and added to our project. So we need to generate Android credentials. So what it does, like on a Firebase console, we need to add a new Android application and enter the project details. The Android package name must match our local project package name, which can be found in androidmanifest.com, .xml, I'm sorry. So Android manifest, let's go to Android manifest here, and we should be able to see our package name. So here we go, com.myrnapp. That's our package name. So once that is done, we need to go back to our project here. Does anyone have any questions about this up to this point or not? It's like I see there is almost no one in no participants almost whatsoever. Do you guys still see my screen and hear me fine? Okay. Then let's keep going if everything is clear up to this point. Basically what we need to do now is add a new app. We go to our project and you'll see a button here with add app, right? And we'll add an app here, an Android app. We will need to both do iOS and Android if we want to build for both. For now, we're going to add Android. So this is our package name. We'll call this go digital RN Android, and we'll register the app. Once that's done, it tells us to download the configuration file, which is a JSON. And we'll need to put it under, basically under app here. You see, it gives us where, so we go to Android app and we put it there. So download, we're going to download this file. And it gives us a dialog to where we want to download it. I'm going to go and put it in my project. We go to workspace, go digital, my RN app. We go to Android, then app, and it should be put right there. So now if we go back to our project, we should, let's close everything. We should be seeing this here in Android and app. We should be seeing Google services with the different elements of data required to connect to our project. You see, you have Go Digital RN and everything. So now that we've done that, next would be adding the SDK, but that we're going to ignore because we're not adding the Java SDK, basically. We're going to say next, we don't care, continue to console. And it should have added Go Digital React Native app here. So let's get back to our React Native Firebase website to continue following the guide. So what else do we need to do? So we need to do this. We need to download it and put it in the app that we've done. So we need to now configure Firebase with Android Credential. The Google service must be enabled on the project. So first we need to go to Android build.gradle and add Google services here as a dependency. So here, like I said, whenever you want to add a library, you should be following the instructions on their website. So here we need to add this, right, to our build.gradle. Build.gradle, the first one, the one at the root, not the one on the app. And we should see dependencies on the build script dependencies. And you can see here, we only have build.gradle. And we will go here and just add this as was instructed. Actually, we'll put it like the one up of it. And just that, Android build. And then we go to Android build.gradle, but the one under the app, and we'll add the apply plugin. So now we should go to the second build.gradle. We're the one under the app, build.gradle. And here we should look for what? We should look for apply plugin, where we can have apply plugins. Where do we have apply plugins? Apply plugins. Here. We should just be adding this line. Okay. So we'll come at the end of the line and we'll apply the plugin. That's it for the Android setup. Do we need to do anything extra for authentication? No. For Firestore. Okay, we're good. So now it means that we have Firebase integrated within our project. And all we need to do is basically build now. I know there is some issues with building right now, but basically all we need to do now is start our Metro builder. And normally, if we didn't introduce issues with the NPM, with the camera earlier, we should be able to go and run Android, and it should compile and build whatever we need for Firebase. So as you can see, it's downloading. It should be downloading right now the Google services. In the meantime, does any of you guys have any questions regarding what we saw up to now? Regarding the routing, regarding regarding Firebase in general? Or is everything clear up to this point? There isn't a lot of you, so this might be the opportunity to maybe ask questions and stuff. No questions? All right. As you can see here, it's downloading. So I don't think we'll have the time to actually write the Firebase code right now, but that's what next week's session is about anyway. Next week's session will be writing the code to integrate, to add an authentication layer and basically add Firestore. So basically next session will be full coding, only coding for the full session. No theory. Today has been very theoretical. I know. We've seen theory. We've written code for the first half, but that's about it. But next week will be fully practical. I see there isn't a lot of you today. I don't know why or what the issue might be. Here it's going to build continue building for a while. So like I said, I don't think we'll be writing the code today, especially since we have only 2 minutes remaining in today's session. So please, before we leave each other, does anyone have any question? We have a minute, so if you guys have any questions, now is the time. No questions? All right, so basically next week we'll live code the services together to add them to our app. And for the code we've written today, you will find them on GitHub on the following link. I will make sure to share. I've included the links for all dependencies that you will need here. For the websites, for Firebase, for the documentation, for in Firebase, for the camera, and everything. And the React navigation, I've included everything. So I will share the presentation with you guys as usual. And if you don't have any questions, we can stop today's session here for today. And we'll live code Firebase, and we'll get back to the photos basically next week. Okay. Good. So thank you guys for your time. And see you next week. So we can basically put all the theory that we saw today into practice. Like I said, we'll be adding authentication, we'll be adding sign up, and we'll be adding access to the database. We will be reading, deleting, and updating. So have a great day. And again, thank you for your time, and well, goodbye.